The meeting room aboard the International Space Station Harmony smelled like recycled air and nervous sweat. Dr. Haewon Yoon sat across from the alien delegation, her hands clasped tight under the table to hide their shaking. 3 months ago, humanity had achieved faster-than-light travel. 2 months ago, they had made first contact. Now everything was falling apart. The Krell Collective representatives looked like giant insects carved from black metal. Their leader, High Arbiter Velmoth, clicked her mandibles in what the translation device called concern. But Haewon had studied enough alien body language to recognize fear when she saw it. "Your species possesses dangerous capabilities," Velmoth said through the translator. "Capabilities you claim not to understand. This makes you unpredictable." Haewon leaned forward. "We're not hiding anything. We don't know what you're talking about. Please give us time to investigate," but time had run out. The junior diplomat beside her, nervous and exhausted from weeks of tension, suddenly gasped. The air around him rippled like heat waves. Every Krell representative jerked backward. Alarm screamed through the station. "Psionic attack!" Velmoth shrieked. The aliens scrambled toward their docking ship. Wait! He didn't mean to. But they were already gone. Through the window, Haewon watched their ship accelerate away. She slumped in her chair, head in her hands. Humanity had just failed first contact. What she didn't know was that Velmoth was already transmitting authorization codes for a weapon banned by galactic law for 10,000 years. Colonel Dae-hyun, Kang was reviewing training reports when the sky above Seoul tore open. He looked up from his desk at the Defense Ministry and saw nothing through the window at first. Then reality itself seemed to crack, like glass fracturing in slow motion. Purple-black rifts appeared in the afternoon sky, spreading like infection. His phone erupted with emergency calls. "Sir, we have multiple spatial anomalies over Gangnam District. Buildings are—" The line cut off. Kang ran to the rooftop. What he saw made his blood freeze. Things were emerging from the rifts. He couldn't focus on them properly. They hurt to look at, like trying to see in 4 dimensions with 3-dimensional eyes. Where they passed, buildings flickered in and out of existence. People simply vanished mid-scream. He grabbed his radio. "All units, combat alert. We have hostile dimensional entities over Seoul. Repeat, dimensional entities. Deploy everything." Fighter jets scrambled. Missiles launched. Bullets filled the air. Everything passed through the creatures like they weren't there. Because they weren't, not entirely. They existed between dimensions, only partially present in normal reality. Kang watched his brother's apartment building phase out of existence, taking his family with it. One moment they were there. The next, just empty space where the structure had stood. No explosion, no rubble. Just gone. Within 3 hours, 50,000 people had vanished from Central Seoul. The creatures, which scientists would later call void spawn, continued to spread, and humanity's weapons couldn't touch them. Private Taeyang Shin huddled with his unit in an alley in Hongdae. The young soldier had been studying Korean folklore at university before the military draft. Now he watched reality break down around him and wished he'd chosen a different major. 3 void spawn drifted toward them. His sergeant screamed orders, but there was nowhere to run. The creatures approached slowly, almost curiously. Taeyang could see through them to the buildings behind, but the view was wrong. Those buildings existed in some other place, some other time. Then something else appeared. It looked like a goblin from the old stories, but huge, the size of a truck. Its skin was bark brown and stone gray, its eyes burned like molten copper, and it grinned with too many teeth. The Dokaibi from grandmother's stories. But this one was real and terrifying. The creature laughed, a sound like breaking rocks. Then it attacked the void spawn. Reality warped around the Dokaibi. Where the void spawn existed between dimensions, this goblin spirit existed in all of them at once. It grabbed the first void spawn and pulled it fully into normal space through sheer force of will. The dimensional predator shrieked, a sound that made blood leak from Taeyang's ears, and dissolved like smoke. The Dokaibi tore through all 3 creatures in seconds, laughing the whole time. Then it turned to the soldiers. Taeyang's sergeant raised his rifle with shaking hands. "Don't," Taeyang whispered. He remembered the old rules. Show respect. Never threaten. Never show weakness. He stepped forward and bowed deeply. "Great Spirit, thank you for saving us." The Dokaibi's eyes fixed on him. It leaned down until its face filled Taeyang's vision. "These are my humans to torment," it said in a voice like grinding stone. "These invaders can find their own." Tell your masters the old powers are awake again. Tell them we protect what is ours." Then it vanished. The soldiers stood in shocked silence until the sergeant finally spoke. "What the hell was that?" "The Dokkaebi," Taeyang said quietly. "An ancient spirit. They used to haunt Korea's mountains and forests. I thought they were just stories." "They're real," the sergeant said. "And apparently they're on our side." "Sort of." Captain Ji-won Park flew her fighter through the chaos above Incheon. She'd been a test pilot before joining the new Space Defense Force. She'd survived crashes, equipment failures, and a training accident that technically killed her for 4 minutes. Since coming back, she'd been different. She could see things others couldn't, like now. While her squadron mates fired uselessly at the void spawn, she could see the patterns in how they moved. She could see the thin threads of stable reality they avoided. And she could see something else approaching. A woman in white walked across the sky. Her feet didn't touch anything. Her hair floated around her head like she was underwater. Her face was beautiful and terrible, pale as moonlight, with eyes that reflected nothing. The pale woman from the ghost stories, the vengeful spirit. Park watched as the ghost approached both Void Spawn and the Krell ground forces that had landed near the port. She moved between them like a dancer, and everything she touched died. The alien soldiers in their armor fell without wounds. The Void Spawn, creatures that existed between dimensions, somehow died too. The ghost moved through both realities at once, reaching into spaces where neither dimension nor physical matter could hide. Park's radio crackled. "Captain, did you see that?" "What is that thing?" "A ghost," Park said. "Korea's vengeful dead, and she's killing everything that doesn't belong here." The ghost looked up at her fighter. For a moment, their eyes met. Park felt ice spread through her chest. Then the ghost smiled, and Park understood. These supernatural entities weren't helping humanity. They were defending their territory. Humans just happened to be included in that territory. Colonel Kang stood in the emergency command center, watching reports flood in from across Korea. Supernatural entities were emerging everywhere. Ancient spirits, ghosts, things from stories and nightmares. And they were fighting the Void Spawn and the alien forces. But they were also killing humans. Not many, but enough. A Dokkaebi in Busan had destroyed a Void Spawn nest and then torn apart a military convoy that got too close. A mountain spirit on Jeju had defended the island from alien landing craft by causing earthquakes that swallowed entire villages along with the invaders. Dr. Haewon Yoon entered the command center, still in her space station uniform. She'd been evacuated back to Earth when the attack began. "Colonel, I need to talk to you about what's happening." "Tell me you have good news, Doctor." "I can see them," she said. "The spirits. My grandmother was a mudang, a shaman. She taught me the rituals, though I never believed. But I can perceive them where others only see distortions, and I think I can communicate with them." Kang stared at her. "You're telling me we need shamanic rituals to save humanity?" "I'm telling you that science and bullets aren't working. The old ways might. Let me try." That night, in the ruins of Gyeongbokgung Palace, Haewon performed the rituals her grandmother had taught her. She burned offerings and spoke the old words, and the Dokkaebi came. It manifested in the courtyard, massive and terrible. "A modern shaman," it said, sounding amused. "How unexpected." "We need help," Haewon said. "The aliens and their weapons are destroying everything. And why should we care about human problems?" "Because this is your home too," she said. "If Earth falls, where will you go?" The Dokkaebi's eyes narrowed. "Clever, shaman child, very well. We will defend our territory from these invaders. But understand this, we are not allies. We are not friends. We simply share a piece of ground and we don't appreciate outsiders making claims on it. When this is over, you humans should remember who was here first." "And the cost?" Haewon asked, because old stories always had costs. The Dokkaebi grinned. "We'll discuss payment later. For now, tell your colonel that the old powers accept a temporary ceasefire with humanity. We'll kill your enemies, but you'll owe us, and we always collect." It vanished, leaving Haewon alone in the ruined palace. She looked up at the torn sky above Seoul, where reality itself was breaking apart. Humanity had been invaded by alien demons, and the only things strong enough to fight them were Earth's own monsters. She wondered if that was salvation or just a different kind of doom. The negotiation chamber in Gyeongbokgung Palace had been hastily prepared. Salt circles, ancient symbols, and burning incense filled the space. Colonel Kang stood beside Dr. Haewon Yoon, watching three supernatural entities manifest before them. The Dokaibi appeared first, its massive form crackling with strange energy. Then the pale woman floating above the ground, her white dress stained with old blood. Finally, from the earth itself rose the mountain spirit. It looked like a man made of stone and ancient wood, its eyes glowing with green fire. "You want our help?" the Dokaibi said. "Not a question." "Yes," Kang said. "The void spawn are spreading to other cities. Tokyo is under attack. The aliens are landing ground forces. We need a formal agreement." The pale woman spoke, her voice like wind through dead trees. "Nothing is free, Colonel." "What will you give us?" The negotiations lasted hours. The Dokaibi demanded entertainment and chaos. It wanted permission to play its tricks on humans again, to cause mischief like the old days. The pale woman required deaths. Not innocents, perhaps, but deaths nonetheless. Criminals on death row could satisfy her hunger. The mountain spirit's demands were simpler but harder. Sacred sites must be restored. Modern buildings on holy ground must be removed. The old traditions must return. Kang felt sick as he listened. But outside, the void spawn were consuming Tokyo. Alien warships approached Earth. He had no choice. "I agree," he said. "On behalf of humanity." The Dokaibi grinned. "Good. Then seal it with blood." "Your blood, Colonel. You will be personally responsible for humanity's debts." Kang drew a knife and cut his palm. The blood dripped onto the ancient stones. The three spirits moved forward, and the room filled with power that made the air heavy. The pact was sealed. Captain Park's fighter screamed through the sky above Tokyo. Her co-pilot seat held something that made her entire crew refuse to fly. The pale woman sat there, her presence making the instruments flicker and frost form on the controls. "The nest is ahead," Park said, her enhanced vision showing her the dimensional tiers. 3 kilometers. The ghost said nothing, but Park felt acknowledgement. They dove into the ruins of Shibuya. Reality was breaking down here. Buildings existed in multiple time periods at once. Park saw the district as it was now, as it had been in 1945, as it might be in some impossible future. The void spawn had been here for days, feeding. And then she saw what they fed on. The nest was a sphere of twisted space where hundreds of void spawn clustered. Inside it, trapped in dimensional amber, were people. Thousands of them. Not dead. Worse. They were being used as incubators, their consciousness slowly consumed to birth new void spawn. Park's hands shook on the controls. She'd seen death before. This was worse than death. The pale woman placed one cold hand on Park's shoulder. "Focus," the ghost said. "Mercy comes through action, not horror." Park nodded and armed her weapons. They weren't normal missiles. They were dimensional charges designed to collapse the rifts. She fired. The pale woman phased out of the fighter and into the nest itself. Park watched through her enhanced sight as the ghost moved through the void spawn like death incarnate. Where they existed between dimensions, she existed in all dimensions. She touched them and they simply stopped being. The nest collapsed. The trapped people fell, most already dead, consumed too far to save. Park turned away, bile rising in her throat. This was what they were fighting. This was what would happen to all of Earth if they lost. The pale woman returned to the fighter and they flew back in silence. Park noticed she could now see through the walls of buildings, see into the spaces between moments. Her death 4 years ago had changed her. Now she was changing again, seeing too much of reality's hidden layers. High Arbiter Velmoth stood on the bridge of her command ship, watching the tactical displays with growing horror. The void spawn were spreading to her fleet. 3 ships had already been lost, their crews simply vanishing as dimensional rifts opened inside the hulls. The weapon was out of control. She'd thought the void spawn could be directed, aimed like missiles, but they were predators, not tools. They attacked everything with equal hunger. Her second-in-command approached. "High Arbiter, the Council demands an update. They're threatening to recall you." Recall meant execution for failure. Velmoth's mandibles clicked in frustration. "Tell them I'm containing the situation." But she wasn't. Nothing in the Krell arsenal worked against the void spawn. Only Earth's supernatural entities seemed able to fight them effectively, which meant only one option remained. "Send a message to Earth's government," she said quietly. "Offer a ceasefire. If they can stop the void spawn, we'll withdraw our forces." Her second stared. "High Arbiter, that's surrendering to primitives. That's survival," Velmoth said. "Send the message." Private Shin had been promoted to sergeant after his unit's survival in Hongdae. Now he stood before a classroom of Special Forces soldiers, teaching them things no military manual covered. Never point weapons at the spirits unless they attack first, he said. They see it as a challenge. Always show respect. Use the old forms of address. If you encounter a Dokaibi, offer it a game or riddle. They love challenges. A hardened veteran raised his hand. Sergeant, this is insane. We're soldiers, not shamans. You're both now, Shin said. Our bullets don't work on void spawn. The spirit's power does. Learn to work with them or die. It's that simple. That night, Shin's new unit was deployed to Busan, where void spawn had been spotted near the harbor. They moved through the abandoned streets, watching the sky tear open above them. Krell ground forces appeared from the opposite direction, their weapons charging. Shin's unit was caught between dimensional predators and alien soldiers. Shin remembered his grandmother's teachings. He pulled out the small shrine he now carried, just a wooden box with offerings inside. He spoke the old words, asking for aid against invaders who threatened sacred ground. Lesser Dokaibi appeared, dozens of them, small spirits the size of children, but filled with chaotic power. They swarmed the Krell forces, turning their weapons against them, making their vehicles crash into each other. The aliens panicked and retreated. The void spawn advanced on Shin's position, but the Dokaibi turned on them too, warping reality to make the dimensional predators solid enough to tear apart. When it was over, the spirits vanished, leaving only small tokens behind, pebbles and leaves that glowed faintly. Shin collected them carefully. He was learning the rules of this new world where folklore and physics merged. The mountain spirit emerged from Halasan with a sound like thunder underground. Krell landing craft had touched down on Jeju Island, attempting to establish a forward base on what they thought was just another island. They were wrong. Halasan was sacred ground, and its guardian would not tolerate trespass. The mountain spirit stood 50 feet tall, its body made of ancient stone and living wood. It raised its arms and the earth responded. Fissures opened beneath the alien vehicles, swallowing them whole. Rocks flew through the air like missiles, crushing landing craft. The very ground rose up against the invaders. The Krell forces tried to retreat, but the spirit was merciless. An earthquake shook the entire island, and when it stopped, the alien base was gone, buried beneath tons of rock and earth. Korean military observers watched from a safe distance, witnessing a god of old going to war. It was magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. Then the mountain spirit turned toward the nearest human settlement. Its voice boomed across the island like an earthquake given words. Keep your alien taint from spreading further, or I will cleanse this entire island myself. All of it, the warning was clear. The supernatural entities weren't humanity's servants. They were powerful, dangerous, and only barely allies. Dr. Yoon found the archive by accident. She'd been researching historical supernatural encounters and discovered that the Korean government had been documenting them for decades. The files were classified, hidden in a vault beneath Seoul. She read through decades of reports. Sightings of Dokaibi, encounters with ghosts, unexplained phenomena at sacred sites, and agreements. Previous governments had tried to negotiate with the supernatural forces before, with mixed results. One document made her blood run cold. A prophecy from 1952, recorded by a Mudang who'd served in the presidential mansion. The shaman had warned that if humanity ever reached the stars, the old enemies would remember why they feared the dark places of Earth. The ancestors had known. They'd known that Earth was claimed by powers older than humanity, and those powers would never let true invaders take their territory. Yoon brought the files to Colonel Kang. They read them together in silence. We were never alone on this planet, Kang said finally. We just forgot what shared the space with us. And now they're fighting to protect their home, Yoon added. Not ours, theirs. We just happen to be part of the territory. The next morning, a message arrived from High Arbiter Velmoth. She offered a ceasefire and shared intelligence that changed everything. The void spawn had an anchor point, a massive dimensional breach hidden between Earth and the Moon. Destroying it could seal them away, but reaching it meant entering their realm, a journey that would require someone who could navigate dimensional chaos. Captain Park was the only one who could do it, and the cost of such a mission would be measured in more than lives. The briefing room on the Lunar Research Station felt too small for what it contained. Captain Park stood before the assembled strike team, looking at faces that knew they were going to die. Sergeant Shin was there, the folklore expert who'd become essential to supernatural operations. 2 elite soldiers who'd survived multiple void spawn encounters, High Arbiter Velmoth herself, representing the alien coalition, and 3 supernatural entities that made the station's sensors scream in protest. The Dokkaebi lounged against a wall, grinning at everyone's discomfort. The pale woman floated near the ceiling, her presence making the temperature drop. A minor mountain spirit, smaller than the great guardian of Halasan, had volunteered for the mission. It looked like a man made of moss and ancient stone. The anchor point is here, Velmoth said, projecting a hologram. It showed a massive tear in space between Earth and the Moon. Destroying it should seal the main breach and cut off void spawn reinforcements. But reaching it means entering their realm. Their realm, one of the soldiers said. You mean actual hell? Worse, Park said. Hell at least follows rules. This place doesn't. Reality breaks down there. Time flows wrong. You'll see things that don't exist and things that exist too much. The Dokkaebi laughed. Sounds like fun. One question, Shin said. Can I bring some void spawn back as pets? Everyone stared at the Dokkaebi. What? It said. They're interesting. Nobody was sure if it was joking. The ship that took them to the breach was half human technology, half alien, with modifications the supernatural entities had insisted on. Salt lines across the hull, ancient symbols etched into the armor, offerings placed at key junctions. It looked like a warship designed by shamans. Park piloted them toward the anchor point. Through her enhanced vision, she could see it clearly, a wound in reality itself, bleeding impossible colors into the void. The void spawn poured through it like maggots from rotting meat. Prepare for breach entry, she announced. This is going to feel like dying. She wasn't exaggerating. The ship crossed the threshold and reality shattered. Shin felt his body stretch across multiple dimensions at once. He could see his own death in a dozen different ways, all happening simultaneously. He watched himself age and de-age, saw himself as a child and an old man in the same moment. Time had no meaning here. The human soldiers screamed. The supernatural entities seemed more comfortable, existing naturally in multiple dimensions. The Dokkaebi caught Shin before he could tear himself apart trying to be in too many places at once. Stay focused on now, the spirit said, its voice somehow cutting through the dimensional chaos. Pick one moment and hold it. Don't try to see everything. Shin gripped the present moment like a lifeline. The chaos receded slightly, becoming bearable. Park navigated through the impossible space. She could see paths others couldn't, thin threads of stable reality winding through the madness. She followed them like a pilot following instrument readings in a storm. Around them, the void spawn's realm revealed itself. It wasn't empty. Fragments of worlds floated in the dimensional chaos. Buildings from alien cities, ships from destroyed fleets, and people, ghosts of civilizations the void spawn had consumed, trapped forever in the space between dimensions. They found the Garden of Consumed Worlds by accident. Park's path led them past a stable pocket where reality almost worked normally. The team stopped to rest, and that's when they saw it. Hundreds of destroyed civilizations preserved like specimens in jars. Each one frozen in the moment of its ending. The void spawn didn't just consume. They collected. This is wrong, Velmoth said, her voice shaking. They shouldn't be able to do this. The void spawn are supposed to be mindless predators. They're not mindless, the pale woman said. They're collectors. Trophy hunters. They keep fragments of everything they destroy. One of the preserved fragments began to glow. An echo of something approached. It looked like an alien made of crystal and light, transparent and ghostly. You are new prey, the echo said in broken galactic standard. We were the Talshir. We fought the void spawn for 3 generations. We lost. How do we destroy the anchor? Park asked. The echo flickered. The anchor is a parasite on reality. It exists in 8 dimensions simultaneously. To destroy it, you need something that can touch all dimensions at once. We tried weapons, failed. You need a living anchor, a sacrifice. The pale woman stepped forward. I can do it. Everyone turned to stare at her. I exist across multiple dimensions, she continued. I can become the counter-anchor, but it will destroy me completely. No rebirth, no return. True death. The Dokaibi's grin faded. For the first time, it looked serious. "Sister, are you certain?" "I'm tired," the pale woman said simply. "Tired of feeding on fear? Tired of existing between life and death? This gives my existence meaning. Let me end by protecting something instead of destroying it." They reached the anchor point after hours of navigation through impossible space. It hung in the center of the void spawn realm. A massive wound in reality that pulsed with sick light. Void spawn crawled over it like flies on a corpse, feeding on the dimensional energy. The team fought their way forward. The human soldiers used dimensional charges that Velmoth had provided. Shin performed continuous rituals, creating temporary stable zones where the laws of physics still worked. The mountain spirit and Dokaibi tore through void spawn with brutal efficiency, but there were hundreds of the creatures. Maybe thousands. They swarmed from every direction. "We can't hold them," one of the soldiers shouted. The pale woman moved forward. She began to change, her human form melting away. What remained was pure dimensional instability given shape, a being that existed in all places and times at once, held together by will alone. "Go," she told them. "When I merge with the anchor, this entire realm will collapse. You have minutes to escape." The Dokaibi stepped forward. For once, there was no joke, no trick. It simply bowed deeply, showing respect it had given no one else. "You were the last one who remembered what we were before Earth. Travel well, sister." The pale woman smiled. Then she plunged into the anchor point. Reality screamed. The anchor began to tear itself apart. Dimensional energies fighting as the pale woman forced herself into the core. She was everywhere at once, touching all 8 dimensions, becoming the counterforce that would seal the breach. The void spawn realm began collapsing like a house of cards in a hurricane. "Move," Park shouted, turning the ship toward the exit. But the paths were closing, folding in on themselves. Shin threw everything he knew into one massive ritual. He combined shamanic chants with alien mathematics, creating hybrid stabilization fields. The mountain spirit added its power, holding open a path through sheer force of will. The Dokaibi warped reality itself, bending it to create temporary escape routes. The ship raced through collapsing dimensions. Behind them, the pale woman's scream echoed across all realities as she dissolved into pure energy, taking the anchor point with her. Park saw it through her dimensional sight. The woman who had been death incarnate chose to become salvation instead. Her final act was protection rather than destruction. It was beautiful and terrible. They emerged back into normal space just as the breach collapsed completely. The mountain spirit had held the path open with its last strength. As they cleared the threshold, it crumbled to dust, its energy spent. 2 of the supernatural entities were gone, dead in ways that meant they would never return. The ship docked at the lunar station. The survivors stumbled out physically intact but mentally scarred. Shin would never look at time the same way. The soldiers had seen things human minds weren't meant to process. Park was different. Her eyes now showed all dimensions at once. She couldn't turn it off anymore. She saw every possible future, every alternate reality. She was becoming something more than human. The Dokaibi was quiet. It had lost its sister, the only being old enough to remember their origins. It vanished without a word, returning to Earth. Velmoth reviewed the sensor data. "The main breach is sealed. Void spawn on Earth are cut off from reinforcements. We can contain them now." "At what cost?" Park asked quietly. The High Arbiter had no answer. Then her console beeped with a priority message. Velmoth read it and her mandibles clicked in distress. "There's more. Our archives revealed something while you were gone. The void spawn were created by an ancient species called the Precursors, dimensional masters who built gateways between realities. Some precursor sites still exist, hidden across the galaxy." "So?" Shin asked. "So our scans detected precursor energy signatures on Earth. Multiple sites. If the remaining void spawn learned to access precursor technology, they could open new breaches. Worse breaches." The team looked at each other in exhausted horror. They'd just sealed one apocalypse. Now another was beginning. Park stared at her hands, seeing them in multiple dimensions at once. She was changing, becoming something that could exist permanently between realities. Part human, part something else. She wondered if this was evolution or just another sacrifice the war demanded. Either way, there was no going back. Dr. Yoon found the Dokaibi in the demilitarized zone. The spirit sat on a tank that had been abandoned for decades, staring at nothing. It wasn't playing tricks. It wasn't laughing. For the first time since she'd met it, the Dokebi looked lost. "I'm sorry about the pale woman," Yoon said quietly. "She was old," the Dokebi said. "As old as me. Maybe older. We came to Earth when our own dimensions collapsed, fleeing the same chaos that birthed the void spawn. She was the last one who remembered what we were before we became Korean spirits, before we adopted your forms and your stories. I didn't know. Humans never do. You think we're your myths, your folklore. But we were refugees first. This planet became our sanctuary because humanity's collective unconscious was strong enough to anchor us in stable reality." The Dokebi's eyes glowed brighter. "Now I'm alone. The last one who remembers." It disappeared into the evening shadows. Yoon made a note to watch it carefully. A grief-stricken chaos spirit with nothing left to lose was dangerous for everyone. The submarine descended into the East China Sea, following coordinates High Arbiter Velmoth had provided. The first precursor site was here, buried under miles of water and millennia of sediment. The expedition team was unprecedented. Human soldiers, Krell scientists, and the mountain spirit of Halasan himself. The Great Guardian had agreed to help investigate, though his massive form had to compress into something submarine-sized. Colonel Kang watched the sonar readings. "We're approaching the structure now." What emerged from the darkness made everyone fall silent. The precursor ruins were massive, built from materials that shouldn't exist. The walls seemed to be made of crystallized space-time itself, glowing with impossible colors. The architecture hurt to look at, designed for minds that understood more dimensions than 3. They entered through a passage that led deep into the structure. Inside, they found technology that made advanced alien science look primitive. Devices that manipulated the fabric of reality itself. Gateways that could open doors between dimensions. And warnings. Mathematical formulas etched into every surface, transcending language. The precursors had been trying to tell someone something. Velmoth's scientists worked to translate. What they discovered chilled everyone to the bone. The precursors weren't just building gateways, Velmoth said. They were building prisons. They sealed away something they called the unmaking, an entity or maybe a concept that exists to end all things. The void spawn weren't invaders. They were wardens created to guard the seals. Then why are they attacking us? Kang demanded. The mountain spirit spoke, its voice like stones grinding. Because we use them as weapons. The aliens summoned them away from their posts. The seals are failing. Captain Park couldn't sleep anymore. She didn't need to. Her body existed in multiple dimensions now, and some of those dimensions didn't have time. She experienced every moment simultaneously, saw every possible future branching from each decision. The military doctors ran tests, but their instruments couldn't properly measure what she'd become. She was still human, technically, but she was also something else, something that could perceive and exist in spaces normal humans couldn't access. Dr. Yoon visited her in the medical facility. There might be a treatment. We could try to bring you back to normal. What's normal? Park asked, looking at Yoon in a dozen different times at once. I can see the void spawn before they appear. I can navigate dimensional space without instruments. Humanity needs that now. But you're losing yourself. Park smiled sadly. Maybe, but if I can save others by being less human, isn't that worth it? The pale woman gave everything. I can give this much, Yoon left without arguing. She knew the look in Park's eyes. It was the same look she'd seen in the pale woman before her final sacrifice, the look of someone who'd already made their choice. Word of precursor technology spread fast through the galaxy. Scavenger fleets began arriving at Earth, ignoring the Coalition's quarantine. They wanted the ancient artifacts, the dimensional devices that could make them rich or powerful or both. Sergeant Shin's unit intercepted, a mercenary team in the mountains near Seoul. The scavengers had found a precursor device and activated it without understanding what it did. Reality collapsed in a sphere around the device. Buildings, trees, and 3 mercenaries simply ceased to exist, replaced by a void that hurt to look at. The dimensional collapse was spreading. Shin called for supernatural aid and the Dokebi appeared. For once it wasn't laughing. It looked at the spreading void and snarled. Fools. They've torn open a weak point in reality. The spirit threw itself at the collapse, using its power to force reality back together. It was like watching someone try to hold water in their bare hands. The Dokebi strained, its form flickering. Help me, it shouted at Shin. Shin performed every stabilization ritual he knew. His unit formed a circle following his instructions. Together, humans and spirit managed to seal the breach. An entire valley had been erased, but the collapse was stopped. The Dokkaebi collapsed, exhausted. Precursor technology isn't toys, it said. It's too dangerous for anyone to use. Your kind or mine, Shin agreed, but he also knew more scavengers would come. The galaxy had learned Earth held treasures, and greed would bring them no matter the danger. The mountain spirit of Halasan summoned Dr. Yoon to the peak. She climbed with a security detail, wondering why the ancient guardian wanted to speak privately. At the summit, the spirit manifested in its full form. 50 feet of stone and ancient wood, eyes burning with green fire, but for the first time it looked tired. I must tell you the truth, it said. I am not what you think. I am not a native Korean spirit. I am a precursor construct, left to guard a seal beneath this mountain. Yoon's blood ran cold. What seal? The Unmaking. A portion of it is imprisoned here beneath Halasan. I have maintained the seal for 30,000 years, slowly forgetting my original purpose but never abandoning my duty. But the Voidspawn invasion damaged it. The seal is cracking. How long until it breaks? Months, maybe weeks. I'm dying, Dr. Yoon. I've sustained the seal with my own essence for millennia, but I have little left. When I fade completely, the Unmaking will break free. What is it? This Unmaking? Entropy given consciousness. The concept of ending made manifest. It exists to unmake reality itself, to return all things to the void before creation. The precursors imprisoned it in multiple locations across the universe. This is one of those prisons. The mountain spirit's form flickered, growing more transparent. I need a replacement. A new guardian who can maintain the seal across multiple dimensions. Someone who exists permanently in the spaces between realities. Yoon understood immediately. Captain Park. She's the only one who could do it. But it would mean giving up her humanity completely. She would become the seal itself, existing forever in eternal vigil. Aware but never truly alive. A guardian between dimensions. Colonel Kang assembled an emergency team to investigate beneath Halasan. They descended into caverns that shouldn't exist, following passages that twisted through more than 3 dimensions. At the mountain's heart, they found it. The precursor prison was a sphere of perfect geometry that existed in 8 dimensions simultaneously. Inside it, something moved. Something that wasn't matter or energy but the absence of both. Pure ending. Pure nothing. The mountain spirit stood before it, transparent now, fading. I have fed it my essence to keep it dormant. Soon I'll have nothing left to give. Captain Park stepped forward. She could see the Unmaking clearly in her multidimensional vision. It was hungry. It wanted to consume everything, to return reality to the void. I can hold it, she said quietly. I can become the new guardian. Captain, no, Kang said. There has to be another way. There isn't, Park said. I'm already halfway there. I exist in multiple dimensions. I can feel the seal calling to me. It needs someone like me. The Dokkaebi appeared from the shadows. She won't have to do it alone. Everyone turned to stare at the spirit. I'm chaos, the Dokkaebi said. She's structure. Together we could maintain the seal. One doesn't have to carry the entire burden alone. You'd give up your freedom? Yoon asked. The Dokkaebi grinned, but there was sadness in it. The pale woman trusted me for millennia. She saw something in me worth preserving. Time I proved her right. Besides, what's freedom when everyone you remember is gone? But before they could act, alarms sounded. A message came through from orbit. High Arbiter Velmoth's voice crackled over the radio. Urgent and afraid. Colonel Kang, the Galactic Coalition Council has made their decision. Earth's supernatural defenders are too dangerous. The precursor technology too risky. If humanity cannot eliminate the supernatural entities within 72 hours, the Coalition will sterilize the planet. Silence filled the cavern. Humanity had fought beside the supernatural entities, made pacts with them, sacrificed with them. Now the galaxy demanded they betray their allies or face extinction. The Dokkaebi laughed bitterly. So much for your alliance, Colonel. Will you kill us to save yourselves? Kang looked at the ancient spirit, at Captain Park becoming something more than human, at the mountain spirit dying after 30,000 years of duty. Then he made his decision. No. We stand together, all of us. The emergency session of the United Earth Government met in Geneva. Representatives from every nation argued while the clock counted down. 72 hours until the alien fleet would fire. We should comply, the European delegate said. Give them what they want. The supernatural entities aren't human. Why should we die for them? Because they saved us, the Korean delegate countered. Without them, the void spawn would have consumed Earth in days. We owe them. We owe our own species first, someone shouted back. Colonel Kang stepped to the podium. He looked tired, years older than when this crisis began. I've fought beside the supernatural entities. I've watched them die protecting us. The pale woman sacrificed herself to seal the void spawn breach. A mountain spirit gave its life to help us escape. They're not weapons. They're refugees who made Earth their home. Pretty words, someone said. But they're also dangerous. Yes, Kang agreed. They are, so are we. Should the galaxy destroy us for being dangerous? We have a choice here. Betray our allies and live as cowards, or stand with them and face the consequences with honor. Dr. Yoon stood next. I propose an alternative. The supernatural entities can help repair precursor seals across the galaxy. They exist in multiple dimensions, making them perfect guardians. We demonstrate their value, not their threat. The room erupted in debate. But slowly a consensus formed. It was humanity's best chance, their only chance. Sergeant Shin walked through the ruins of Tokyo alone. The void spawn remaining on Earth had evolved, becoming smarter, more organized. They hunted in packs now, learning from their failures. He found one separated from its group. It watched him with what might have been curiosity. These new void spawn were different. They didn't attack immediately. Shin set up his portable shrine and performed a ritual. Not an attack. An offering. A request for communication. The void spawn drifted closer. It touched the offering, and Shin felt something like words in his mind. Not language. Pure concept, confusion, purpose lost. Duty abandoned. You were guardians once, Shin said aloud. Wardens of dimensional seals. The aliens summoned you away from your posts. But you could return to that purpose. Not as slaves. As partners. Protect reality because you choose to, not because you were forced. The void spawn pulsed with colors that hurt to see. More concepts flooded Shin's mind. Created as tools, never given choice. Forgotten why they existed. I'm offering you choice now, Shin said. Help us repair the seals. Become guardians again, but free guardians. We'll share the responsibility. Humans, supernatural entities, and void spawn together. The creature was silent for a long moment. Then it communicated one more concept. Agreement. But only if others agreed too. If it would be true partnership. Shin smiled. It was the first time anyone had successfully negotiated with a void spawn. He reported back to command, knowing they'd think he was crazy. But he'd proven it was possible. Dr. Yoon found the Dokaibi at the place where the pale woman had last stood before the dimensional mission. The spirit had built a shrine there, a strange, chaotic thing made of stolen objects and wildflowers, but somehow beautiful. We need you, Yoon said, to help Captain Park become the new guardian. The Dokaibi didn't turn around. I'm chaos and tricks. How can I be trusted with something so important? The pale woman trusted you for thousands of years, Yoon said. She saw something in you worth preserving. Prove her right. Honor her memory, the spirit finally turned. Its eyes were wet with something that might have been tears if spirits could cry. You know how to hurt an old monster, shaman child. Will you do it? The Dokaibi looked at the shrine it had built. Yes, but not just for you, for her. She believed I could be more than mischief and chaos. Time I proved her right. Captain Park stood at the entrance to Halasan's heart. The mountain spirit waited inside, barely visible now, fading fast. She could see the seal clearly in her multidimensional vision. It was cracking, and beyond it the unmaking waited. The Dokaibi appeared beside her. For once it wasn't smiling. Ready for eternity, Captain? As ready as I'll ever be. They descended together. At the seal, the mountain spirit turned to them. Thank you. I have been alone for so long. To pass my duty to ones who choose it willingly, it is a gift I never expected. How does it work? Park asked. You must merge with the seal itself, become part of its structure. You'll exist across all 8 dimensions that contain the unmaking. You'll be aware of every moment simultaneously, never sleeping, never resting, always vigilant. Sounds terrible, the Dokaibi said. It is, the mountain spirit agreed, but necessary, and you won't be alone. Two guardians balancing each other. Structure and chaos. Order and flexibility. Park and the Dokebi looked at each other. She was becoming less human every day. It had lost everyone who remembered what it had been. Maybe this was better than fading into nothing. Maybe this gave their transformations purpose. Together, they stepped into the seal. The transformation was immediate and agonizing. Park felt herself stretch across dimensions, her consciousness expanding to touch all 8 layers of reality at once. She could see every possible moment, every potential future, all happening simultaneously. The Dokebi's chaos met her structure, and they merged into something new, not human, not spirit, the living seal, the new guardians. The mountain spirit smiled for the first time in millennia. The watch changes. Guard well, children of the new age. Then it faded completely, finally at peace. Colonel Kang stood before the alien fleet in orbit. The broadcast went to every ship, every world in the Galactic Coalition. Behind him stood representatives from Earth's governments, supernatural entities, and 3 evolved void spawn that had agreed to Shin's proposal. "We know you fear Earth's defenders," Kang said. "We understand your concern about precursor technology, but we offer you something unprecedented, a solution that benefits everyone." He shared everything. The precursor seals failing across the galaxy, the unmaking imprisoned in dozens of locations, the need for guardians who could exist in multiple dimensions. Earth's supernatural entities are refugees from other dimensions, he explained. The void spawn were created as wardens but never given choice. We propose a new system. Shared guardianship. Humans, supernatural entities, and reformed void spawn working together to protect reality itself. In exchange for full coalition membership and protection for dimensional beings as sentient refugees, we'll share precursor site locations and help repair the seals. We'll turn potential threats into protectors. The response was immediate chaos. Arguments filled every communication channel. But High Arbiter Velmoth spoke up, her voice cutting through the noise. "I support Earth's proposal," she said. "I unleashed the void spawn out of fear. That fear nearly destroyed everything. We've been afraid of dimensional beings for so long. We never considered working with them. Earth has proven it's possible. We should follow their example." The debate lasted hours. The Coalition Council voted. The margin was narrow, but it passed. The weapons powered down. Earth had bought humanity's survival not with weapons, but with an offer of cooperation. 1 year later, Colonel Kang visited Halasan. The mountain was peaceful now, protected as sacred ground. He left offerings at the shrine built at the peak, a memorial to those who'd sacrificed everything. He couldn't see Captain Park anymore. She existed beyond normal perception, distributed across dimensions. But sometimes he felt her presence, vast and patient, watching over Earth and the seal she guarded. Dr. Yoon was training the next generation of dimensional diplomats. Her school taught shamanic traditions alongside quantum physics, folklore alongside xenobiology. Her students would work across the galaxy, bridging the gap between mundane and supernatural. Lieutenant Shin led the Dimensional Liaison Corps from a station orbiting a void spawn colony world. The former predators were learning to be guardians again, sealing breaches across space. It was slow work, teaching nightmares about partnership, but progress was happening. High Arbiter Velmoth had become Earth's greatest advocate in the coalition government. She'd lost status among her own people for it, but she considered it penance. She and Kang met monthly, 2 former enemies now friends, bound by the weight of their shared mistakes and triumphs. And in the spaces between dimensions, in the eternal now where all times existed at once, the new guardians stood watch. Park's structure and the Dokebi's chaos merged into something that could protect reality itself. They weren't alone. Other volunteers joined them. Reformed void spawn, ancient spirits, dimensional refugees who'd hidden for millennia, even a few humans willing to sacrifice their mortality for eternal vigilance. The galaxy was safer now, not because fear had been defeated, but because fear had been transformed into cooperation. Earth's demons had met alien demons, and together they'd become something better. Guardians, protectors, partners in defending reality from the darkness that always waited beyond. The price had been terrible. Lives lost. Humanity changed. But survival had been earned not through violence alone, but through the willingness to stand beside monsters and see the people they could become. Humanity had reached for the stars and found them full of enemies, but they'd also found potential allies in the darkest places. They'd learned that the enemy of your enemy could become your friend, if you were willing to take the risk.